Oh, Jesus f***ing Christ. Okay, picture this. You're deep into your favourite game and you're feeling pretty confident. You've got a pretty good idea of the abilities of the enemies that you'll face at any given moment, and then BAM! An unknown horror, doused in pure nightmare fuel, leaps out at you, leaving you to question all of the life choices you've made up until this point. Some enemies are just that horrifying. But which ones are the worst? The ones that made you shriek out in real life. The ones that made you say, hey, I might just watch a little bit of YouTube before bed just so I can calm down. And the ones that made you feel like someone or something was watching you long after you turned the game off. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and prepare to face your fears. First up, I want to talk about crabs. Headcrabs from Half-Life. While experimenting with teleportation technology, scientists at the Black Mesa Research Facility inadvertently opened a rift between Earth and a parallel world that exists outside of our reality named Zen. This interdimensional tear created a gateway for the inhabitants of Zen to cross over into our world. One such inhabitant was the world's most dangerous baked bean, the headcrab. Headcrabs use their long, spindly legs to leap at a potential victim's head with the intention of latching on. When successful, the parasite digs in with the serrated teeth inside its gaping mouth and then uses its hidden beak to break through its victim's skull, where it can hijack its nervous system. Charming, right? Well, it doesn't get much better from here. Once in control, the headcrab twists the host into an almost unrecognisable zombie or necrotic, with long tendril-like claws and an often open chest cavity. Worst of all, their human hosts are still conscious throughout this entire process. Headcrabs are only about the size of a pumpkin. Headcrab spice latte, anyone? And are relatively easy to dispatch with a couple of well-placed shots from a pistol or a bop from a crowbar. But hearing them scuttling around in the dark will always put you on edge. Staying with Half-Life, and this time with the sequel. A little way through Half-Life 2, you head to Ravenholm and discover a town decimated by a bombardment of headcrab shells. Biological weaponry that releases a payload of the aforementioned headcrabs. Yay! As if the zombies created by the original headcrab weren't bad enough, the headcrab shells also contained a fast headcrab variant which created, you guessed it, the fast zombie. The fast zombie takes everything you hated about the regular zombie and knocks it into 12th gear, gaining the ability to run, jump and climb, while losing the ability to be chill or have skin. While not particularly dangerous on their own, fast zombies often travel in packs of 3 or 4 and can be heard babbling while idle or screaming while charging. Horrible. Just horrible. Let's leave the world of Half-Life now and take a trip to Raccoon City with Resident Evil 2. It's time to talk about the Licker. Licker? I hardly even know her.
Move this man!
The Licker is a rare mutation of the standard zombie and first made its appearance in Raccoon City in 1998 when a strain of the T-virus contaminated drinking water and affected tens of thousands of people, making some of them capable of turning into lickers.
That guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
The Licker, another monster on this list that is devoid of chill or skin, had an expanded and exposed brain, reformed bone structure, talons, and a lashing tongue capable of decapitating anyone unfortunate enough to be in licking distance. If you're anything like me, and I know I am, the first time you experience the Licker in Resident Evil 2 will live with you forever. You've been through that awesome opening cutscene and made your way from the burning wreckage of the tanker through the streets of Raccoon City. You've been to the weapon shop with the owner that nearly shoots you.
Sorry about that, babe.
But the scariest part of that conversation is that he calls you babe, darling, and girly within the space of 30 seconds. It's all good, he gets eaten shortly after. You make it through to the police station and you meet Marvin, who sounds like this. He then asks you to rescue the survivors in the other rooms. You use the computer in the main hall and you head through to the first newly unlocked room. This room's quite quiet. I got a good feeling about this. Oh, a first aid spray. I'm pretty sure games only give you these just before a battle, but it's only zombies in this game, so I'm quite confident that it's going to be okay. Wait, what was the... I'm sure there was... Hold on. This room is a lot more drippy than I like my rooms to be. I'm sure it's fine. But there is a decapitated guy right next to me, so... This whole sequence of events is legendary and it absolutely terrified me as a kid, and it's still creepy today. I remember when I was a kid and I would play the demo up until the point where the cutscene ended, and then as soon as it did and you had to fight it, I would turn it off. Sticking with Resident Evil 2, I want to focus on the 2019 remake. It's time to talk about my ex. Mr. X. Mr. X, or T00 to his friends and family, was one of 6 tyrants that were airlifted to Raccoon City after the outbreak I mentioned earlier, and was given instructions to recover a G-Virus sample from the pendant of Sherry Birkin, and also kill any surviving officers and civilians found in the police station. As we're trying to help Sherry throughout the police station, we, of course, encounter Mr. X, and the first time you meet him is probably one of the most scary moments in the entire game. From here, Mr. X will constantly try and find you throughout the police station, barging through doors, shoving zombies aside, and can often be heard stomping around from room to room like my dogs when I'm working from home and it's lunchtime. He hits like a truck and ends up pursuing you for a large part of the remake. He can't be bargained with, he can't be reasoned with, he doesn't feel pity, remorse, or fear, and he absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead. Stepping away from Resident Evil for now, let's move on to The Last of Us, and more specifically, the Clicker. Clicker? I hardly even know her. The core element of The Last of Us is the cordyceps brain infection that devastated mankind after it was transmitted to humans via infected crops. This is a real thing, by the way. While not a threat to humans, it's actually a real thing. Go and check out the Planet Earth documentary on it if you haven't already. It's awesome. The parasitic fungal infection would affect its hosts in stages. First, beginning with the runner, then the stalker, then the clicker, before finally morphing into bloaters and shamblers. The fear derived from clickers for me is twofold. Visually, unlike runners and stalkers, they've lost all the facial features you'd recognise as human. The fungal growths have covered or destroyed the eyes of the host, rendering them completely blind, and all that remains is a mouth filled with jagged teeth. These things are just horrifying to look at, and the subtle or sometimes not so subtle variations in their appearance is fascinating. Like, fucking disgusting, and I hate it. Please make it stop. Oh god, please, why is it still there? Please. But still really fascinating. Then, in terms of sound, this is where clickers really take it up a notch. As they're blind, they've developed a crude form of echolocation through clicks and croaks. The noises they make while idling around are beyond creepy. Sneaking around and having those little please don't see me moments while listening to those clicks and croaks can be pretty intense. And you better hope that they don't shit. As I was saying, you better hope that they don't see you. At that point, it's pretty much GG. You might as well pause it, restart from checkpoint, and just try again. It's time to take our first venture to everyone's favourite holiday destination, Silent Hill. And our next enemy lands partway through Silent Hill 4, The Room.
Hi, doggy.
Not the Tommy Wiseau, no. The 4th instalment in the series saw you playing as Henry Townsend, who has become mysteriously trapped in his own apartment, but after 5 days of entrapment, discovers a large hole in his bathroom wall, which leads to the other world, essentially the universe that manifests all of the nightmarish scenarios from the Silent Hill series. One place Henry visits on his journey is the water prison, where he'd first meet the twin victim. Well, these things are just awful. Let's get that out of the way up front. This monster takes the form of 2 conjoined infants wrapped in a chic, feathery smock. Then, instead of legs, they appear to stand on the arms of a calisthenics instructor. My most vivid memory of the twin victims is when you're running around the water prison and you'd see them just around the bend, completely still, just pointing at you. And if you don't get too close or try and attack them, they won't even approach you. And that's somehow much worse. If you have a room temperature IQ or, want to complete the game or whatever, you kind of have to get close to them at some point, and this is where the fun starts. The twin victim will then use its gangly, adult-ass arms to hurtle towards you. This thing will then not stop pursuing you until you are dead. Let's move on to the next entry in this list, and someone we all know and love.
Boom. A child.
I tried to write something informative, descriptive, or dare I say eloquent for the introduction to Baby from Resident Evil Village, but I don't think it was possible, so I went with this. This enemy is a giant, deformed human fetus that looks like the hateful love child of David Cronenberg and a grasshopper. Likely an hallucination caused by inhaling the mold-infected plants around House Beneviento, this creature is a warped representation of the main protagonist, Ethan Winter's daughter. Baby is the kind of monster that you fight with the volume turned down a little bit on the TV because it's either constantly wailing or being super cute, saying things like and in this pseudo-demon baby voice, which is just a no from me. You're unable to use any weapons in this encounter, so your only option is to evade by running away or hiding under the bed. This really ramps up the scare factor, especially when you learn that Baby's mouth is large enough to swallow you whole. Staying with Resident Evil, but going back to 2017 for Resident Evil 7, we have Marguerite Baker. Marguerite and the rest of the Baker family, the main antagonists in Resident Evil 7, were infected by a fungus which granted them the ability to withstand enormous amounts of damage, regenerate from near-fatal injury. But it did send them insane. Throughout the course of the game, you learn that the infection was instigated by the human bioweapon Evelyn. Following the infection, Marguerite opted for a drastic change in career direction, where she went from housewife to serial killer. From there, Marguerite and her family would begin experimenting on innocent people and turning them into monsters known as Molded. While she's a persistent pain throughout the game, her final boss fight will live long in the memory. See, one thing I left out earlier was that Marguerite's special abilities also allow her to stretch out her limbs and scuttle around like a spider. She can also control insects, including those that she can cultivate from the pulsing hive that exists in her groin. She has the tendency to use jump scares during her final boss fight and will regularly leap out from holes in the ceiling. Often she'll be scurrying around on all fours, but she will also amble towards you standing upright at times too. This isn't a deeply challenging fight, but visually, Marguerite, you nasty. I did a whole video on sound in my last upload, so please check it out if you haven't already. But while you're here, does this sound do anything for you? Resident Evil 4 has you playing as a returning Leon Kennedy who is on a mission to save the president's daughter. Really creative, guys. She is suspected to have been abducted by a mysterious cult in Spain known as Los Iluminados, or the Enlightened Ones. When arriving in a rural Spanish village, you encounter a group of villagers infected by a mind-controlling parasite known as Las Plagas, or the Pests, which causes increased aggression in human hosts. This parasite is central to the plot of the game, and you later discover that Los Iluminados were creating experimental Plaga-based bioweapons, and one such creation is the Regenerator, which I learned is actually a quirk of incorrect localization. They were mistranslated from Regenerador, but I'll be using Regenerator throughout the course of this video because I'm a heathen.
You know I don't speak Spanish. In English, please.
This enemy was created by planting multiple parasites within a human host, causing severe mutations in the ability to rapidly regenerate flesh when injured. This meant that they could regenerate entire limbs in an instant. This is explained in a series of notes you'd find before meeting a Regenerator for the first time, where they're described as almost invincible to conventional weapons.
I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
You also learn that thermal imagery can highlight the Plagas living inside its body, and that to stop the regeneration process, they must be located and destroyed. The problem is, you don't actually get a scope that's capable of this until after you've fought about 3 of them, which is suboptimal. Hearing that creepy breathing, accompanied by their droning, almost industrial theme, was so nerve-wracking, and whenever I saw one of these enemies, I'd think, maybe that's enough for today. They also hit super hard, so if they got too close to you, they'd be ruining your session, your day, and your pants, all in one bite. Oh, I'm sorry, did you think that was the end of that section? Well, you are dead wrong, bucko, because the new Regenerator just dropped, and it is covered in f***ing needles. It's called an Iron Maiden, and rather than pulling you in for a smooch on the neck, this version gives you the world's pointiest cuddle. I wanted to trim this list down to just 10 enemies, so I felt compelled to share some of my favourites that didn't quite make the cut, starting with Behelix, the floaty boy from the amusement park in Streets of Rage 2, Pyramid Head, obviously, from Silent Hill 2, the Finger Creepers from Elden Ring, Centaurs from Fallout 3, and the Deathclaw from any of the Fallout games, Mimic Chest from the Souls games, the Butcher from Dead Island, Goro from Mortal Kombat, and of course, the biggest omission on this list, Michael Jackson's creepy-ass face in Moonwalker. And this brings me to what I think is the scariest enemy from any game ever. I hate this thing so much. PT, or Playable Teaser, was essentially a demo for an upcoming Silent Hill game named Silent Hills, directed by industry icon Hideo Kojima. The fact that 10 years have passed and people still talk about PT today shows what a masterpiece it was. To write this video, I actually went back and played a version of the game again on PC, as I'd not experienced it in a decade. I'd forgotten all of the jump scares, I'd forgotten how intense the experience was, and I really wanted to test if she was as scary as I remembered.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh.
And yeah, I can confirm she was. Yeah, oh yeah. Lisa is the gory apparition of a woman murdered by her husband that pursues you throughout the experience. The goal of PT is to work through the various cryptic puzzles in a seemingly never-ending hallway in an attempt to leave the building. Call me a baby, not you, but I was really dreading going through all of this footage and going through all these scenes again. There's something about Lisa that just leaves my jimmies thoroughly rustled. The design of her character, movement, set pieces, and the fact that she's sometimes just grinning at you stirs something deep within me and makes me uncomfortable at a cellular level. I feel as though I can feel my DNA breaking apart like Lil Bro when he drinks that goop at the beginning of Prometheus. Don't drink goop. Everything on this list is creepy, but for me, Lisa is the scariest video game character of all time, and it's a tragedy that we never got the full release of a Silent Hills game. I would have loved to have seen what Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro would have done with the franchise, especially as it was going to be flanked by Norman Reedus too. That brings an end to my list of scariest monsters, enemies, and baked beans, but I would love to know what would have made your list. Let me know in the comments if there's something you would have loved to have seen in this list. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out if you want to watch more video game content on my channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, bye, bye.
Fuck.